Jeff Passan drops a bombshell report revolving the San Francisco Giants. After years and years of missing out on the big free agents, he believes this is the one that will come to San Francisco. We're going to have it all here on SF Giants Digest, so make sure to go down below, hit the subscribe button as we have all the breaking news, reports, speculation throughout this winter here on the channel. So make sure to go down below and hit the subscribe button. Of course, in this video, we are talking about the far and away number one free agent this upcoming offseason, Kyle Tucker. With free agency officially underway, we're going to be talking about all of the free agents throughout this winter. And of course, Kyle Tucker being the big fish, we have to start with him. Of course, Giants fans getting their hopes up once again with every reporter, mocking Kyle Tucker signing with the Giants. We get it every offseason. We talked about Vladdy, we talked about Shohei, of course, we talked about Aaron Judge, Yamamoto. We talk about every single free agent signing with the San Francisco Giants because they have a ton of money. It's just, are they willing to use it, and will any player actually take it? We're going to be breaking down Kyle Tucker's free agency right now, starting with the original article that Jeff Passan talks about the Giants being linked to Kyle Tucker. In a Q&A type of article, he said, the question was, what is the early word on top free agent hitters Kyle Tucker and Kyle Schwarber? Passan says Tucker falls in that interesting bucket where he will rightly demand a contract in excess of $300 million. But the number of teams willing to pay that will limit his options. The Dodgers and Giants make sense, as do the Phillies. Schwarber, on the other hand, will have a bountiful market. Now, of course, we're talking about Kyle Tucker. We're not too worried about Kyle Schwarber, who his offensive profile doesn't necessarily fit the Giants. He's a DH. We obviously have Rafael Devers now. Bryce Eldridge is going to be mixing in the DH first base. So Kyle Schwarber, not necessarily a fit, but Kyle Tucker is absolutely a fit. Obviously, the Giants' right field has been kind of a revolving door since Mikey Strzemski got traded in the middle of last season. We saw a lot of Drew Gilbert. We saw some Grant McCray. We saw Luis Matos, but it seems like this winter the Giants are going to be looking for a full-time right field option, and obviously Kyle Tucker is the number one outfielder on the market. There's also Cody Bellinger, but Kyle Tucker is the one who's looking to get, around $400 million probably. Now, this is from NBC Sports Bay Area, kind of going off of Jeff Passan's note of the Giants. They said Tucker's not expected to re-sign with the Cubs after being traded there last offseason. The Giants reportedly were one of the teams in trade talks with the Astros to acquire him at the time. Tucker's a four-time All-Star. He's made just over $57 million in career earnings in his 8 years of MLB service. As Passan wrote, Tucker's performance warrants a large, long-term contract. The Giants have become increasingly willing to sign such contracts, as evident with Matt Chapman's extension, Willy Adames' free agent signing, and the trade for Rafael Devers, who has a lucrative long-term contract. Now, the real question is, are the Giants willing to add another long-term, big-money contract to the books? Willy Adames is locked up for the next 6 years, Rafael Devers for the next 7-8 years. Matt Chapman has another 5 or 6 years, and these guys are all making, around $30 million, just under it. So adding a guy like Kyle Tucker would add probably between $30 and $40 million a year to the books, which we've seen Greg Johnson already talk about being cautious with contracts over $100 million this offseason. So it is a big question to talk about whether the Giants are going to be offering Kyle Tucker the big money contract. I liked last offseason how the Giants were clear right away that they were not going after Juan Soto, and that's how they ended up signing Willy Adames, was going after the guy they wanted right away. And I could see them doing the exact same thing this offseason, with a few teams being, a fit for Kyle Tucker, especially money-wise. The Giants could right away just say, nope, we're not going there. We want Cody Bellinger, or we want Dylan Cease, or whoever they are targeting this offseason. They could take that approach. Now, this one comes from Sports Illustrated, and this one talks about how perfect of a fit Kyle Tucker would be with the Giants. It says, the Giants have been looking to add a top left-handed bat for years. They got one by trading for Devers, but the team's offense collapsed after that addition before finding some footing later in the season. It goes on to say the Giants have about $137 million committed to players for 2026, giving them plenty of room to bring in Tucker. He'd fit perfectly in right field immediately. A lineup that includes Tucker, Devers, Adames, Chapman, Bryce Eldridge. You add in a Jung Hoo Lee, Elliot Ramos. That would pack a ton of punch and potentially be good enough to challenge the Dodgers in the NL West. And I think this is a big point of emphasis for this conversation. If the Giants are serious about competing with the Dodgers, the Padres, there's a lot of star power on those teams. Adding Kyle Tucker puts you in that conversation. Despite having a weak rotation as of now, you hope they add more to there, and the bullpen, of course. But adding a guy like Kyle Tucker to your lineup puts you right on, I don't know about on par, because Shohei Ohtani is arguably the greatest player you've ever seen, but it puts you up there with the Dodgers, and I would argue that it gives you a better lineup than the Padres. The Padres have a lot of star power, obviously Manny Machado, Jackson Merrill, guys of that nature, but I would argue that their lineup is a bit top-heavy, and signing Kyle Tucker gives you the second best lineup in the National League West. The Dodgers is kind of hard to go against, even though it's a bit top-heavy. But this is a guy where if Buster Posey is serious about contending right away, if he wants to win the National League West, or at least, be competitive within that division, if he wants to go and try and win a pennant, win a World Series, Kyle Tucker is a guy where you bring him in and he automatically elevates your playoff or your lineup to give you a better chance at making the playoffs. This is kind of what Kyle Tucker has done throughout his career. This is his Fangraphs page. You see on the right-hand side a really consistent, 4 to 5 win player. I know he hasn't eclipsed 5 yet, but you see in 2021, 2022, 2 in a row seasons with 4.9 Fangraphs wins above replacement. He has a couple of 30 home run seasons. Doesn't strike out a ton, usually in the below 15% strikeout rate. Walks a good amount. He's just a guy that will fit perfectly into this lineup. He hits for a pretty high average. This year was kind of a down year because the last half of the season he was hurt, dealt with a wrist injury. It really affected his ability to hit the ball and hit for average. But still, his first half was so good. He ended up winning a Silver Slugger despite the awful second half he had. This is just a guy that elevates your lineup in a way that the Giants have not seen in a long time. I know Willy Adames is a really big get, Matt Chapman as well. Obviously, Rafael Devers is one of the best mashers in baseball. But Kyle Tucker's a guy who hits for a little bit more average, and he can just do a lot of things really good. He might not be elite at something, but he's really, really solid at pretty much everything. Now, when you're going to sign a guy like this to what would be, a $350 million to $400 million contract, you have to talk about the playoff performances, and he's been fine in the playoffs. You see he has a batting average of .233 with 57 hits, 9 home runs, 29 runs batted in, and 32 runs scored in 72 games in his postseason career. This past year, he had a .745 OPS, you see on the right-hand side there, so pretty solid. He started his career really strong in the playoffs, .874 OPS in his third playoff season, .706. 2023 and 2024, the playoffs, he did not perform great, but this past year, he seems to have picked it back up, a .745 OPS, obviously. He's a guy where, if you're going to commit this kind of money, you don't want to say a playoff riser because you'd hope he stays as talented as he is in the regular season, but you want a guy who is not going to, drop. You don't want a playoff dropper, as we've seen with Aaron Judge prior to this season. Shohei Ohtani even started this postseason a little bit slow. Obviously, he picked it up and was awesome in the NLCS in the World Series, but you don't want to sign, what would be the biggest contract in franchise history for this guy to not perform in the playoffs, to not perform against the Dodgers, the Padres, these big rivalries where it feels like a playoff game a lot of the time, especially when the Giants are contending like it was early in June this season. You need a guy that's going to show up to the big games, and if you're paying him that type of money, you would expect him to have big moments, get the big hit against the Dodgers in the playoffs, things of that nature. Now, before we close out this video, I wanted to point out this tweet from Marco Luciano Believer on Twitter. He said, "Me seeing everyone predicting Kyle Tucker to the Giants, and it's the meme of the guy in the war behind him." And I think this is just funny because year in and year out, the Giants are connected to every major free agent. Like I said, Bryce Harper missed out. Aaron Judge used us for leverage, missed out. Shohei Ohtani. Alex Pavlovich has said that the Dodgers weren't even worried about the Giants. It was more the Blue Jays. So clearly missed out. Just time and time again, the Giants have been linked to the biggest free agents, not ended up with them, and it has been a huge disappointment to the fans. And it seems like the same thing is happening this season. Because it is such a perfect fit with the right field hole in the Giants lineup, everyone is fitting Kyle Tucker with the Giants, and it seems like the fan base is ready to be hurt again because a lot of them are saying that they're ready for the Giants to sign Kyle Tucker. And personally, I don't see it happening. I think Buster Posey is going to kind of do what he did last season, not go after the big fish, which was Juan Soto last year, Kyle Tucker this year, and they're going to go for their guy, which last year was Willy Adames, who was the second best hitter on the free agent market. This year, I think they're going to go after a big pitcher before Kyle Tucker signs and kind of point in the direction and say, hey, we know everyone's going after Kyle Tucker, but we want you. We want to sign you to this big contract, yada, yada, yada. That is what I think happens. Let me know down in the comments what you think. Do you think Kyle Tucker ends up a San Francisco Giants? Do they hand out a huge contract to him? Or does he end up in Los Angeles with the Blue Jays, in Philadelphia? Let me know what you think down in the comments, and make sure to subscribe to SF Giants Digest.